Good morning. I'm going to play a etude by Chopin. Now we think of etudes as very technical works. This one's more of a study in harmony, and it goes through all kinds of beautiful chords. So it's a less familiar etude that he wrote late in life. So it's called just Etude in A flat major, Opus Posthumus. It was published after he died.
Good morning. Welcome to everyone here and to those of you on Zoom. We're so glad that you're here with us today. So, Casey writes, the modern Unitarian Universalist believes that every individual has the right to explore spirituality and religion for themselves, free from the constraints of dogma or doctrine. We believe all beings are beloved and are worthy just because they are. We believe in a future where we are all treated equitably, but recognize the inequalities in this world and seek to work to tear down the structures that uphold them. At the center of it all, there is love. Love for our world, love for each other, and love for ourselves. We'd like to acknowledge that we turn off our cell phones. And we'd also like to acknowledge that we stand upon the unceded land that carries the footsteps of the Kumeyaay people and others before them even for millions of years. They are a people whose traditional lifeways intertwine with a worldview of earth and sky in a community of living beings. This land is part of a relationship that has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced the Kumeyaay people to the present. Worldview founded in the harmony of the cycles of the sky and balance in the forces of nature. We find inspiration in their spirit to open our minds and our hearts. And you may have read that the Stonewall Peak, named for a Confederate general, is now Cushbi Sharp Peak. So it has a new name as we go hiking in the backcountry. So now we have several announcements. Let's see, let's start with Jessica.
Hi, it's me again. Hopefully the last couple of weeks you guys have been gathering your beloved gently used items to bring to the rummage sale that is taking place on June 27th. Well, I have some good news. Next week on Sunday, you can start bringing your items here into the salon. And then the following week, you can also drop it off during the week, but only during specific windows. So the last newsletter, email newsletter that we sent out had those time windows when you can keep your items off. If you need more help, just ask me or Mark Weedman and we can give you that information. But next Sunday, start bringing your things in. We're getting very close. And once again, the rummage sale is to raise money for security.
Thank you, Jessica. Al?
Good morning. Yes, I'm Al Mork, Chair of the Social Justice and Action Committee here at Summit, and we're having our monthly meeting today at in the library this afternoon. But we do have some important things to discuss, so hope to see you there.
Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce, Stacy has an announcement.
We wanted to make sure that you knew that today is the Rise Up event that is being televised from New York. It's a concert for the First Amendment, and we're having a watch party right here. And it starts, everybody will be here at 4. The concert starts at 4:30. It has lots of wonderful people singing in it. Bring your own food and beverage, and we'll have a picnic together, and we'll all watch it together.
Thank you, Stacy. Now I'd like to introduce Erin from Western Service Workers, who has a short announcement, and she'll also be with 3 other members, Terry and sorry, I forgot your names, at the social justice meeting today. So you'll hear more in detail if you come to the meeting at noon. Erin?
All right. Thank you. My name's Erin. This is Terry and Eric, and we are all volunteers with sorry, and we really appreciate, thank you. And we really appreciate your continued support. Summit UU Fellowship has been a huge help with supporting our back to school distributions, our toy collections, as well as volunteering on our events. And I wanted to announce that we are gearing up for this year's back to school distribution. And so I'm putting out the call to that we are accepting donations of new school supplies, including backpacks. And we will be back on Sunday, July 26th to pick any donations up. And thank you again for your support.
Forgot to tell you who I am. I'm Aline King. I'm wearing green today. I have long brown hair, and I'm ending my 77th decade, so it's an interesting time of life. So today, Eleanor will light the chalice for us, and I have a reading from Sean Parker Dennison. Spirit of justice, help us be courageous and committed in these times. Let us transform our ideals into action, our words into deeds. Let the fire of our passion burn with both light and warmth. In our anger, help us embody the spirit of creative destruction, always making room for more justice, more compassion, more love. May it be so. May we be the ones that make it so. Amen. And now, please stand as you are able to sing the congregational hymn, followed by our aspiration. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament, and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. Please be seated. So since this is the month to flourish, I found this book called Born to Flourish, and it's written by two PhD scholars and scientists, and it's got a lot of interesting information in it, and so I'd like to read you a few words from their book today. To flourish is to have a life that feels meaningful and rich, despite the challenges we'll inevitably face. And in their research, they've found that our daily routines and rituals can help us to get there. They say flourishing falls in four main categories: awareness, connection, insight, and purpose. Research suggests that practicing mindful attention or simply observing your thoughts and feelings can reduce stress and anxiety and increase feelings of contentment. Being perpetually distracted can feel chaotic, but being aware feels good and it puts you in the driver's seat. Connection is another pillar of flourishing. People with strong ties live longer and have greater well-being, and it's easier to find closeness every day than you might think, they say. We experience what the experts call flashes of appreciation and care every single day, whether we lend a helping hand, offer a kind word. To build your relationship muscles, they said, savor these flashes when you can. The third one is insight, the capacity to see how our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs shape the way we perceive ourselves and the world. Those aha moments of deep understanding flow out of insight, and they are instrumental to feeling that we're living a meaningful life. Our purpose is a North Star that guides us. It's a mix of our deepest aspirations and our guiding principles. People sometimes think that the purpose involves finding something grand, but you can recognize meaning and purpose in your everyday life. So Dr. Dahl and Dr. Davidson have conducted lots of research that suggests having a purpose makes people feel more positive, fosters a sense of belonging, and improves resilience. Both of them are scientists, but they're also long-term meditators, and so the book describes things from both sides, and it's quite interesting to read. So blessings for that. And now Stacy will lead us in the hymn 396. Please stand. I know this rose will open.
We're going to sing this 2 times. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear
be seated.
Good morning, everyone. I am the Reverend Casey Marie Pandel. It is my joy to be the minister here at Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Our joys and concerns portion of our service give us the opportunity to hold the things in our lives that are too big to hold alone. All are welcome to share a joy or concern via text or email with myself or Stacy Sasaki throughout the week, though next week, please send them to Stacy.
Now I'd like to invite Mary Carter Vale, the Director of Religious Exploration, to tell us about Opal Lee and Juneteenth.
Make sure you have your stick. Good morning. Oof. Sorry. I need a minute there. So I have a story to tell you. We all need a story right now, right? If anybody'd like to come up, their pictures will be on the screen, and I will also have them in the book if anybody wants to come up closer to see. So next Friday is June 19th. Does anybody know the significance of that day? Do I see a hand going up? Juneteenth. And we're going to learn more about Juneteenth today. Last year at this time, on the 19th, I was in Baltimore for the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly. And during that week, I got to go to D.C. to see the Museum of African American History, which was very powerful. I highly recommend. Highly, highly recommend it. I was there for 2 hours. I only saw half of it. It was really beautiful. But this story is about Opal Lee, who was the grandmother of Juneteenth. She and many of her ancestors kept the story alive. And it wasn't recognized until as a national holiday until just a few years ago. But it is a holiday that's important to everybody. So let's hear the story of Opal Lee and what it means to be free. And I'm going to make sure I can do this. It always takes me a minute to figure it out. Whoops. There we go. We got it? Thank you, Ren. Oh, happy Juneteenth Jamboree. Come and join the fun. Opal Lee waved to her great-grandson as he barreled across the park. He zipped past lines of picnic tables covered with platters of barbecue, baked beans, tomato tarts, and raspberry cobbler. He hurried past a leaping choir draped in purple robes. He danced a jig with cowboys playing fiddles, but they did not stop his flow. Buddy ran to the blooming tree where Opal Lee held court. Her braided hair was a silver crown, and her eyes were twinkling stars. There we go. All right, perfect. Great grand dear, Buddy called. Tell us a Juneteenth story. Opal Lee raised her face to the sun as memories of yesteryear filled her vision. When she had been a Texas bud, like the children at her feet, Granddaddy Zach told freedom stories on his wooden porch. As Opal Lee remembered his words, she lifted her hands and cheered, Juneteenth means freedom, and now it's story time. Then Opal Lee began. Once upon a blazing sun, black bodies were bought and sold like cattle. Black men plowed the fields, but were not allowed to own the land. Black women cooked the food, but were not allowed to feast on the roast and the ribs from the master's table. Black children cleaned the one-room schoolhouses, but were not allowed to read or write. Earning and learning were against the law. Slavery was a thief. American slavery dragged on like a plague until January 1st, 1863. That's when President Lincoln wielded courage and raised his feathered pen. he signed the Emancipation Proclamation with a mighty stroke. On the first day of January in the year of our Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves shall be forever free. Glory, glory, glory. Freedom was dazzling news like a bright, starry night. However, Texas was big and many miles away from Mr. Lincoln. White masters defied his words. Black bodies remained in bondage. They plowed, they cooked, they cleaned. Freedom did not ring through Texas in 1863. Whoops, I think I went one too far. Let me go back one. There we go. Whoop. It was toiling times in the Lone Star State. For 2 years and 5 months and 18 more weary days. 2 years, 5 months, and 18 days. Then finally joy jumped up on dancing feet in the Gulf town of Galveston. The year was 1865. The day was June 19th. Gordon Granger marched through Galveston with the Union Army troops. The general raised his booming voice and spoke these righteous words. The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. Opal Lee danced in a circle. Freedom, hope, and joy divine. Juneteenth means freedom time. Can you imagine the excitement? Singing filled the air. Happy tears rolled down like rain. Black families leaped through cotton fields and played tambourines. It was a day of jubilee, perfect for Texas barbecue, watermelon and sweet potato pie, delicious delights that they had been denied during servitude. Opal Lee told the children, remember my words for safekeeping. Remember what I say. Juneteenth is bigger than Texas, singing or dancing bands. Juneteenth is freedom rising, and freedom is for everyone. Juneteenth is for you and me. And as the children clapped and cheered, Buddy tugged her sleeve. Great-grand dear, he called, what was Juneteenth like when you were a kid? Opal Lee unwrapped another story. Blacks and whites lived separately when I was a child. I'm not skipping ahead, am I? Oh, yes, I am. Thank you. Blacks and whites lived separately when I was a child. Jim Crow signs littered the old Fort Worth in every public place. They say whites only, colored only. Black families were banned from Forest Park Zoo except one day of the year. On Juneteenth, we could picnic, party, and ride the Ferris wheel. I hated that zoo. I loved it too. The birdhouse was my favorite. Buddy groaned and shook his head. The old days don't sound so good. Good and bad worked together. It was like sun and rain. I spent good days on my granddaddy's porch, reading poetry books. His farm was my playground. I ran across the fields and climbed the tallest oak tree. Glory, glory, glory. Some memories are chocolate sweet, but some memories cut and bruise. My saddest season started on Juneteenth Day in 1939. An angry mob with flaming sticks burned my family's brand new house. Their broken minds and evil hearts were so afraid of black progress, the police made no arrests. My family moved away. And yet the embers that burn that fire still live in me. I learned a big lesson that Juneteenth Day. Freedom is a golden coin. Struggle makes it shine. And no matter how long it takes for freedom to stretch across the land, I will keep on teaching. I will keep on reaching. I will keep on walking. I will keep on talking. I will raise my voice on the prairie and the mountaintop until freedom rings. And Opal did walk to Washington, D.C. as a way of bringing attention to the importance of Juneteenth. The children lifted their hands in praise. Freedom, hope, and joy divine. Juneteenth means it's freedom time. Opalie winked and chuckled. I think now it's time for barbecue, strawberry cake, and red Juneteenth punch. Glory, 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 Buddy cheered and waved his hands. When he bounced up to leave, Opalie hugged him tightly. Then, just like birds in flight, all the children flocked into her arms. Opalie studied their shining faces. Black, brown, bronze, gold, tan, white, freckles. As the children dashed away, she marveled at their bright future. She rested against the blooming tree and whispered into the wind, remember my words for safekeeping. Remember what I say. Freedom is for everyone. Juneteenth is for you and me. And the last picture, this is Opalie. So although Juneteenth is celebrated with barbecue and wonderful foods, it is really about resilience and the joy of resilience. So I hope we can all center that joy as we celebrate the freedom of our American brothers and sisters who were enslaved.
And never give up. She was 89 when she went to Washington.
Exactly.
So carry on.
Carry on. So we're going to sing our Do Re Mi song today, and then we're going to go make strawberries and ice cream and red drink in celebration. We'll bring some over if we have any extras. We'll see, though. All right.
Now, Stacy, are you coming to Cantor once more? Okay. Fairest is Love. Please stand and join in singing Fairest is Love.
We're figuring this out together.
I'll play it through once, maybe.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, Stacy. Beautiful. So it's my great honor to introduce my dear friend. We've known each other now for 51 years. She's a speaker, an author, a diplomat, an expert in human relations, and she's done so many workshops and classes around the world. At one time she didn't know where she was. She was so busy. But now she knows where she is, and she's here with us today. She has some wonderful items on the table out front. Her husband's looking at that, so after the talk you can go see some of those inspirational cards and words of wisdom that she offers. So I'd like to present now my friend Cath DeStefano. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Good morning. Nice to be with you again. Some of us were together once before, and I was talking about love, actually, and the test of trying to love someone who is politically 180 degrees from you. Oh, man. The update on that is that I told a story about my brother, and my brother and I are diametrically different politically, and he had come to my other brother's birthday party, and he had on this red hat, and it was highly offensive to me. Whew! And so I had to practice my own things that I say about love, that love ultimately is a decision in that situation. And the update is that once I told the story and then I got the connection that it was going to be out on YouTube, I went, oh my God. So I had to tell him in case he came across it, you know. I thought, oh dear. And so I did, I told him. And my brother is very brief in his speaking. And he said, all he wrote back, texted back, well, somebody's got to say it. And then he proceeded to come drive from Texas to San Diego to my birthday since then. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So bottom line is it's nice to be with you again and to be in the room with people who have like hearts. That's so important in these times. And I risk making you sad, but I really felt the energy in the room when you were told that one amongst you, Tom, had left his body and was on his way. And I felt that energy, and I thought, oh, that man was loved. And I don't know if you remember the Stephen Colbert questionnaire. Are any of you familiar with the Stephen Colbert questionnaire? He asks these questions, and one of them is even, what's the best sandwich? Well, really? Go off on that. But one of the questions is, what do you think happens when we die? Ooh. And there's been just a whole bunch of different answers to that question. And in honor of Tom, I'd like to say I think there's a welcoming party. And I think that everyone that you love is crossed over, shows up to make sure that you feel welcome in the next phase. So notice what you think about what I think about that, because then you'll know what you think about what happens when you die. And I remember during COVID, I was a caregiver for a 101-year-old woman, Rose, and when her granddaughter went out of town, I would stay with her. And near the end of the time, when we were able to actually socialize again, I remember the morning that Rose said to me, she says, "Did you see George?" And she's looking off in the corner of the room, and I'm going, okay, play along. And so I said, no, I don't see him. Where's George? And she goes, he's waiting for me. And that was her ex-husband. So although hearts physically hurt at times of grief, that's when we bind together. But there's also that kind of relief when a body no longer works. It's a relief, and we need to be grateful for that also, I guess. So I have no transition from that into the topic for today, whoa, which is flourishing, except to say thank you to my friend Aline King, because she calls me up and she says, well, our theme for the month is flourishing. She said, could you talk to us about flourishing? And I'm going, I guess I could. By a show of hands, how many of you use that word in your daily life, flourishing? Well, good for you, because it was kind of new to me, and I thought, well, flourishing, what's this about? So I went about thinking what I thought about flourishing and looking things up, and would you believe there is a global flourishing project? People are looking at us humans, and what I want to do is I want to take this globally, because there are people actually researching people in different countries around the planet to find out how well we're flourishing. And then I'll take it from the big picture to the personal, because I'd like you to take flourishing personal. It's a great thing to add to any life. So, the Global Flourishing Study, you can imagine Harvard is involved in this, and there's a couple of other universities. And they're surveying people in 22 countries, and they're surveying thousands and thousands of people. And they're starting to get some results. And so when we look at the global piece of this, kind of curious, okay, what country is considered flourishing the most? They have it. Indonesia. Indonesia. Out of a 10-point scale, they are 8.47 in Indonesia. I think you're going to be surprised at the second one, Mexico. Flourishing, 8.19 out of 10. The third one, the Philippines, 8.11. And you got to look at that and you go, well, where are we? Come on, where's the United States? Aren't we big and popular? And, well, we're in there somewhere, but we're in the middle. The comment is that we're real good with money and materialism, but we have maybe a little bit work to do with our meaning, our purpose, and our relationships. So that's from the global perspective on flourishing, which we're using the idea of flourishing being blooming and flowering, and that's from its Latin root. So I do have one thing to say about the USA as far as aging. They did it in age groups, and in our young people in age 18 to 29 in the United States, they're flourishing at a rate of 6.36. And thus, anyone in the age group next that I'm talking about is from 60 to 69 years old. They're flourishing at 7.68. And that is a nice thing to know, is that as we age, we flourish more. Once you get over 50, you've figured some things out, what you like, what you don't like, and what you're going to pay attention to, and that has to do with flourishing. So, for me, the bottom line of flourishing is, do you like your life? When you want to start taking flourishing personally, it's a matter of really looking at our lives, no matter what the age, and I am so glad that woman went to Washington at 89 years old. I take hope in ages like that we continue to improve and grow. So what I want to do with you next is to move it from globally to personal. And here's what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to ask you the questions that they asked the people in the global study, and you can take this personally. And here's how I want to do it. I want to first satisfy your mind by reading the questions so that you can kind of get used to them. Then I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and use your body knowledge, your intuition, to let you tell yourself where you are on that particular question on a scale of 10. Are you with me? Okay, good. So first we're going to just hear the questions and kind of just feel your way into how that is for you. Happiness and life satisfaction. Overall, how satisfied are you with your life as a whole these days, with 10 being completely satisfied? Number 2, in general, how happy or unhappy do you usually feel? 10, extremely happy. Question 3, in general, how would you rate your physical health? 10 being excellent. And 4, how would you rate your overall mental health? 10 being excellent. 5, overall, to what extent do you feel the things you do in your life are worthwhile? 10, completely worthwhile. Number 6, I understand my purpose in life. 10, strongly agree. Next, I always act to promote good in all circumstances, even in difficult and challenging situations. True of me, 10. Next, I'm always able to give up some happiness now for greater happiness later. I think we call that delayed gratification. Next one, I am content with my friendships and relationships. My relationships are as satisfying as I would want them to be. Second to the last question is, how often do you worry about being able to meet normal monthly living expenses? 10 is you do not ever worry. And the final one, how often do you worry about safety, food, or housing? So that's basically where we're going because it paints the big picture of our life. If you'd be willing now to close your eyes and just settle into your body in that chair and just make yourself comfortable, whatever that calls for. It could be paying attention to your breathing, and just the point is to get yourself really present and quiet in your own self. And then I want you to hear these questions again and just feel your way into your answer. Tell yourself the truth. Overall, how satisfied are you with life as a whole these days? In general, how happy or unhappy do you usually feel? 10 being extremely happy. In general, how would you rate your physical health? 10 being excellent. How would you rate your overall mental health? 10 being excellent. Overall, to what extent do you feel the things you do in your life are worthwhile? Do you strongly disagree or agree with this statement? I understand my purpose in life. I always act to promote good in all circumstances, even in difficult and challenging situations. I'm able to give up some happiness now for greater happiness later. I am content with my friendships and relationships. My relationships are as satisfying as I would want them to be. How often do you worry about being able to meet normal monthly living expenses? And lastly, how often do you worry about safety, food, or housing? When you're ready, if you'll open your eyes, and if you're willing to just note with one other person close by, what ones got most of your attention? What one really spoke to you? Would you be willing to talk to one other person about that now and then listen to theirs? Please do that now. All right, in the interest of time, I'll need to ask you to say your last thing about that to each other. And then I bring us back together with the focus of, all right, you know, it's great to look at the big picture of life. And I say, let us stop requiring that we all be 10s. Can we agree on that? Let's just let that one go today. And I'm all for 7, maybe 8. But let us relieve ourselves from 9 and 10s. And, you know, I think the bottom line of flourishing is, you know, do you like your life? Do you enjoy your life? And I want to, I'm not ready to quite conclude yet, but I want to just emphasize our creativity and that we design a life, and if you find that if you're listening to yourself and there's a part of your life that just really isn't working, well, come on, let's just do something different there and bring that along a little bit. And there are so many, I want to tell you some stories that I hope leave you with hope and inspiration, because I've just had some in my life recently that I'm just shaking my head over. But first I'm going to go to just a brief thing I want to read you out of my book. It's called Vital Signs for Life. And the bottom line, I think, of this book is, do you like your life? And if you don't, come on. But it's about creativity, and I just love this story. Recently, I read an article about a woman and her sister who were experimenting with their ability, which they weren't sure they had, to draw things into their lives by simply focusing on them. For some reason, they decided to test their ability to do this by focusing on the supermodel, Christy Turlington. Okay, it was their test, bringing Christy Turlington into their lives. So they put a lot of energy into this. They had signs on their walls, pictures of her around their apartment, writing affirmations, "No, Christy." Eventually, on with their lives they went, marrying, years later moving to New York. And then came the day when one of the sisters heard someone say, "Hold that elevator, please." And from around the corner into the elevator stepped Christy Turlington. Now you gotta say, that is something. Okay, here's another story along that line. My niece is divorced. Started last July, got ugly, had to sell the dream house that they built that was just how she wanted it. And it was rough. 2 daughters, finishing up college, messy. Ugly, angry, messy. So she's trying to take the high road, not say anything bad about her ex-husband, etc., and that's the route she's on. So she has a very good job, fortunately, and it causes her to travel some. And she's just in a rough phase of her life, but she's on her way to, she's in Atlanta, Georgia, because she's going over to Savannah, Georgia. She and her daughter are going to be driving back to Michigan to take care of some business. So my niece is in the Atlanta airport. How many of you have ever been in the Atlanta airport? Huge, huge, huge. She's standing in line to get something to eat, and she hears, "Lisa?" And she turns around and she says, "Jason?" The man that she dated her junior and senior high school life. In the Atlanta airport. They had about 20 minutes to talk, and then her flight to Savannah went. And so There was Jeremy. They reconnected. They hadn't been in touch all the years, and the years had been probably 30 years. He had been married and divorced. He had 2 children. He worked for Delta Airlines and lived in Atlanta and happened to be there that day at that time. Okay, fine. So on she goes to Savannah. She and Jenna are getting ready to leave to drive to Michigan, and they go, let's just stop at Starbucks and get something to drink for on our trip. They stop at Starbucks. Who's in the Starbucks? Jeremy. Jeremy. He lives in Atlanta. They're in Savannah. They didn't arrange this. He's in the Starbucks. What? What's the chances? They ended up sitting there and talking for 4 hours. And it's just exactly what she needed for this transition. She's not going to get married in the next 20 days or anything like that, although he said he would marry her in a New York minute. And a common friend who's kept in touch with him all this time said to Lisa, he's been waiting for you his whole life. He never got over you. Well, I just wanted to tell you those true stories because that's how it works, isn't it? I know you're plugged into that, but when we're talking about nourishing and we're talking about the quality of our life, I think it's a matter of give ourselves permission to flourish in the midst of, I have to say it, in the midst of other people's suffering. Let ourselves have a life and enjoy a life, and yes, serve, and yes, do good, and yes, and yes, and yes. But in the midst of all of that, let's give ourselves permission to flourish. You wanna? Well, I have one other thing to report from the Global Flourishing study, and it's one of the things that came out of it. It said, in general, attendance in religious services is associated with greater flourishing. You're in the right place. Thanks for being here today. Yay. Great. Thank you.
Always so wonderful. Thank you, Cath. Yes, and don't forget that she has goodies out there that you can take home with you and enjoy some of her energy in your own space. So now is our time of giving and receiving, and so our offering is important to keep the lights on, keep people paid, have the carpet cleaned next week, and all the wonderful things that makes this such a lovely place to come to. So as we listen to the piano, please give generously. Thank you.
I'm going to play, this tune was a favorite of the late Pete Seeger, who was a great folk singer, who actually has a connection with the people that donated this piano, Elaine Harper and Richard Wilkie. He knew him, and he had many notes from Pete Seeger, and he always put a little banjo at the end of it. They were folk singers together, and so this is a wonderful song. It was his favorite, and it's one of my favorite too. How can I keep from singing? So if you want to follow along with the words or hymn, just hum along. It's 108 in the gray hymnal. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Karen. So may you go forth this week and in future weeks with refocused awareness, abundant connections, clearer insights, and rededicated purpose. Flourish as best you can. Blessed be. So after we put out the chalice and then have our closing circle song, we'll have maybe a 5-minute break, and then if you come back. Oh, we forgot the hymn. It seemed like the last one was sufficient, but.
Oh, I thought we got away with it. The Fire of Commitment, 1028 in this book. Please stand, if you can. A beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith, set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way. Then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our minds and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
That was lovely. We did need that. So anyway, blessed be, and 5-minute break, and then after we close the chalice and have a talk to share some Tom stories today, I think it would be appropriate to share our connection with him in his new journey. So, Eleanor, we today extinguish this flame of the chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So please join for our circle song, together hand in hand.